good though.
Need to take a picture
Yeah,
of it.
that's the one I had, I downloaded.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Tuesday, March the 15th. This time I'd like to ask Ms. Emily Plunk, who is delivering the invocation and following that, the pledge flag. Would you please stand for the invocation?
Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. We thank you for allowing us a chance to come and represent you in this great hall. We ask you now to give wisdom, understanding, and a sense of duty to all those that are present here today. We ask these and all other blessings, that we represent you well in all things. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Plunk. This time I'll ask the city recorder to call the roll.
Yes, Mayor Noes,
Fred.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks,
Here.
Alderperson Almacher, here, Barry,
Here.
Blackwell, here, Dunn, here, McGee,
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. Mr. Rosemary. At this time, we have a certificate I'd like to present. We'll be hearing more about this young lady as the meeting goes along, but we have an honorary alderman, Ms. Biftu Rega'a. Would you please stand, be recognized? And I'll be giving you a little bit more details about Ms. Rega'a as we go along this evening, but she'll be telling us some things about her activities at the school. But if you would, please come to the flag and we'll get a photo op and certificate. Ms. Rega'a, you think you're better than that?
Oh.
Yes. Thank you. You want me to hold it? So. Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations. Let me give you a little bit of the credentials for Ms. Rega'a this afternoon. She's on the National Honor Society, and she's Vice President, FBLA President, National English Honor Society President. She's on the Mayor's Youth Council. They've just completed evaluating about 1,200 what I like about Telehoma essays. So she's also the junior class secretary. She's been very active in her high school career, has a laundry list of things that she's done for community service. Her academic awards are, well, quite frankly, too numerous to mention. She's indicated to me she plans to attend a couple of universities in mind, that Columbia, Duke, and is considering Vanderbilt, which I highly recommended. She is interested in the medical profession, as her father's in cardiac work in Southern Hospital. So, Ms. Rega'a, you'll have an opportunity to talk more about things that you're doing when we come to our reports from our aldermen. So we'll come back to you at that time. So again, thank you for being here this morning. At this time, we will proceed with the approval of the agenda. This agenda has been presented to you earlier, and at this time, if there are any, of course, you know, we have some limits on the amount of time we can talk on each agenda item, which is limited to 15 minutes each, and so we can go into that. But anyway, this can be changed by a motion or extended debate. So Are there any further additions that would like to make to the agenda that we have, it's been presented tonight? Anything from the Alderman for addition to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Almaker.
yes, I would like to add a resolution for consideration under new business. You should have a copy at each of your seats. It is resolution number 1893 to support a statewide moratorium on gas and diesel taxes.
Be glad to add that as an item under new business. And let me make a note of that at this point. Thank you, Alderman Lomax. To get that added, we'll need a vote, so we'll have any of, we don't at this time? We can just add it? Okay. We'll move on. That's why we have parliamentary here. Okay, with that addition, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Blackwell and seconded by Alderman Almack. This time we'll vote on the agenda as amended. And the agenda is approved by a vote of 7-0. And we'll get to that agenda item that's added. We'll present the resolution in some more detail. At this time, we'll have comments from citizens. Are there any citizens who wish to address the board? If not, we'll move on into the reports from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Tonight, we'll start with Alderman McGee.
Mr. Mayor, well, since the last meeting, I actually missed the last meeting. I was sort of stranded on vacation in Las Vegas, but I was able to attend the Chamber Coffee at South Jackson when it was held there. I also attended the Tullahoma Housing Authority meeting. They continue to receive compliments and good reviews on their audits from the state. They do have some availability for housing, and they're doing very well. They're a well-oiled machine that's doing very well. I did attend the 30th gala hosted by Motlow College at the conference center, and I do have some events planned for the very near future, and I will talk about those at our next meeting. And that's all that I have. Thank you so much, Mayor Lewis.
Alderman Berry.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I've been told my hair looks good, so if we can zoom in on that. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I was out last meeting with we buried my grandmother, and I came back with the flu, bronchitis, and eye infection, and ear infection, and strep, and this is my first public appearance outside of dinner with my mother Sunday, so I have nothing to report other than nothing's going to keep me down.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Thank you for being here, and condolences for your grandmother. Alderman Blackmore.
Yes, thank you. So the school board meeting that would normally be like tonight is next week, the March 22nd, if I am correct. And I want to call out specifically that before that meeting is the Colemans, the band directors from when I was a kid, and probably until many others, are being honored that night. So if you guys would like to come, I'm sure that would be appreciated. I wanted to share that with you guys. I think the reception starts at 4:30 at the high school. And so, looking at Aaron to make sure that's correct. Another thing I wanted to mention is that with the school, I do have been working with them on a relationship violence intervention work. And the past 2 weeks, I've spent with middle schoolers, 7th and 8th graders, multiple days with middle schoolers, talking to them about healthy relationships, warning signs for unhealthy relationships, bystander intervention, as well as how to argue fairly. I think that's something that's important. I've posted them on Facebook. I meant to print them out, but I was getting like from TML. I wanted to share those with you. The arguing fairly one is really interesting, and I honestly think it would help our board as a whole to read it too. So I'm gonna share that with y'all. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the downtown. As I said, I sent out an email to the downtown businesses and the businesses as a whole, trying to get feedback for what type of investments they'd like to see in downtown. I'm getting some responses, mostly via email and phone call though, rather than that terrible survey. So thank you to everyone who's been doing that, and stay tuned for more information on that. So thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
Yes. So our next Go Green event will be on Monday, April 18th. We will be giving away rain barrels through the River Network and through Coca-Cola. So those are just a gift from them. So I'm glad that we'll be able to do that. So that's happening around 4 o'clock. That'll be the start of the farmer's market at South Jackson Civic Center.
Thank you. And congratulations on your very successful TEDx talk.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Alderman Blackwell, Alderman Almacher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, I actually was not in attendance at the last board meeting due to some personal things going on and some sickness. And, sometimes you just need a mental health day to compartmentalize everything that's going on within your family and outside of which. But since then, Ms. Blackwell and I had the opportunity to be guests at the Motlow Gala, which was a very great event. And they raised a lot of money, and some very impressive individuals spoke at that event, and we appreciate the invitation. I think Miss McGee was there as well, although I didn't get a chance to speak with her. I am going to do a small business shout out today. This is for a Miss Tanya Berry, and the business is called All Angles. And this is something new that I've just learned about. So the reason I chose this business is, ladies, it's almost springtime. It's bathing suit shopping season. And they do what is called ultrasonic or ultrasound cavitation, which is basically a non-invasive way to make you skinnier. Okay. And so it's really cool. Laser lipolysis. I don't know if I said that right. Lipocavitation, skin tightening, vacuum therapy. They've only been open for a couple of months, but they are located at 311 North Jackson Street here in Tullahoma, and it's called All Angles Body Contouring Studio. So you guys, ladies especially, you guys go check them out. Since our last meeting, I also attended the county commission meeting, which they only have once a month. And the only reason I want to mention that is because it does affect, there was something on their agenda that does affect Telehoma that I wanted people to be aware of. The health departments are having staffing shortages, and one of the things that was on their agenda that's gotten kicked is to the next meeting, actually, because they need to look at it from a capital outlay perspective, is they are thinking about combining those two health departments and building a new building, which would mean there would no longer be one in either city. There would be one in between. I believe they're talking about doing it out of the industrial park. But in the meantime, the director of the county health departments has asked that the Manchester Health Department, because it's in desperate need of repairs, be shut down, and we absorb their staff here in Telehoma. And so if that were to happen, I think it's important for our Telehoma citizens to know that you might be expecting some longer lines at the health department for your needs. So you might want to, call ahead and make sure that you can get in there. So just an update, because it's looking like in the interim we will be absorbing Manchester's needs as well. And they have also talked about potentially moving the staff over, closing down our health department here in Telehoma for certain days to do off-site things in Manchester to ease some of the burden of travel. So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share that with our citizens and let you know that that's going to be on the agenda again next month at the county commission meeting. Also, I had a meeting with a downtown business owner, and I thought this was important. Rupa, I haven't had a chance to speak with you, but it affects the city. Since the city owns Wall Street, I had a business owner reach out to me and once again ask that we could reconsider the removal of the bollards due to public safety issues of ingress and egress, getting in and out of Traders Bank. and that they've had a lot of issues with whenever those downtown businesses are getting deliveries, not being able to get out of the parking lot and then having to pull back out onto Jackson Street. Or if there's some way that we as the city could alleviate that by maybe removing them during certain time periods or business hours or whatever. I did speak with Miss Moody about that. She is aware, and is going to, talk to the rest of you board members and probably gauge what you think should happen, and talk to those business owners. So I appreciate your cooperation with that as well, and for hearing me out for that, Miss Moody. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. What is, again, this, new business shout out? I want to make sure I get the address and the phone number.
Give it to me.
Well, you just call Miss Tanya Berry and she will hook you up.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, I hadn't had any meetings. Did get a mid-month report, plus 13 signups. Would like to, so continue to grow there. Always encourage people to shop Tullahoma, buy local if you can. We like your tax money. Helps fund roads, schools, etc. As far as Ballards go on Wall Street, I'm a thumbs down. I've been a thumbs down on Ballards from the get-go. In my opinion, that was a big screw up by this board. Most of y'all weren't on the board when that happened. I preached then that once you pass something like that, it's very hard to get rid of it. So, you can always do like they do in New Orleans. Put the Ballards in at night when you have traffic on Wall Street that are going back to the different bars. During the day, yank them out. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This time I'm going to refer to our honorary Alderman, Ms. McGaw, and she can tell us some things that are going on in her world at the high school and some of her plans for the future.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me here today. Regarding the high school, as many of you know, the musical is still under play. They're rehearsing a lot. It should be ready to go by early April. I'm very excited. DECA just competed about 1 or 2 weeks ago, and their students did very well. FBLA is also preparing to compete in Chattanooga in about early April as well. NHS is also looking to clean up school signs. Bel Air has requested that we help them with that, and we are going to see if there's any other need to do that in other schools, and potentially, if we can, installing some kind of like walkway between the band area and the school building, because it's a bit of a rough walk, but we'll see if that will work. We're going to meet with some landscape people in the future. Hopefully that'll get done this year. My plans, as Mayor Noah said, I'm still deciding between colleges, but I hope to double major in molecular biology and chemistry and minor in piano performance. And I hope to become a physician scientist and really just look at public health issues and understand the socioeconomic impact of certain things on health. That can be anything from malaria in Ethiopia, to where I was born, to drug overdose in my community, right? So understanding global public health risks and then using research to solve them. I love research, I love medicine, so as a physician scientist, I can combine those two things, which I'm very excited to do. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderman Ricca. I envy your ability to speak extemporaneously like that. I wish I had your gift. Good job. Let me tell you a little also about some of the things that's been going on in our Mayor's Youth Council, which Ms. McGaw served. They've been evaluating some up to 1,200 essays on what I like about Telehoma. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be going to the respective schools where we'll be awarding some 48 essay winners from those schools. And thanks to the Mayor's Youth Council for doing that evaluation. And excited to hear some of the things that our K through 5 students have to say about the schools. A lot of them say the same things I would have said if I'd been in K through 5. So I like Space Island and places to get something good to eat. But anyway, that's going on with the Mayor's Youth Council and what I like about Telehoma. Of course, I mentioned the TEDx that was at South Jackson Civic Center last Saturday. Great day after the snow melted a little bit. We We had the airport board meeting on the 8th. We celebrated Rotary's 100th year in Tullahoma recently, and that's something that's important because Rotary has made a $15,000 donation to the city to use for beautification of some of our downtown areas, so we want to recognize them. At this time, I want to also acquaint you with an event that's happened recently in Washington, D.C. At the Association of the Defense Communities, they named Tullahoma, Tennessee as one of the 2022 Great American Defense Communities. That's a big deal. Great American Defense Communities. These defense communities were the name of the Defense Communities National Summit in Washington, D.C. Now, to give you some significance as to competition, they awarded 5 communities in the country, these American Defense Communities. The other communities were Florida Space Coast, Northern Virginia, Antelope Valley, California, where all the major defense contractors operate, and West Palm Partners, California also. So this is a great event, and there'll be some forthcoming greater announcements on that, and I can't make this announcement without giving a shout out to Beverly Lee, who's in the audience tonight. So Beverly, congratulations on pushing this thing and making it happen. So thank you for that. And that concludes my report tonight. So let's move into the consent agenda. I won't do it again. I won't, but they won't let me do it again. So at this time, we'll ask our city attorney for his report. Sir, Attorney Worsham.
I think that award that Beverly was instrumental in having bestowed upon us is another reason why we need to keep the Correction Academy in Tullahoma. And I've been active with some of our other organizations in conjunction with what our board enacted the resolution at the last meeting, asking the General Assembly to take action to allow it to remain here. The Tullahoma Noon Rotary Club has approved a similar resolution. The Tullahoma Community Pride Foundation has done likewise. And I encourage all of you to take a little bit of time to contact not only our legislators, Senator Bowling and Representative Bricken, who are, of course, proponents of this, but anybody that you know in Nashville to keep this Correction Academy here for many, many obvious reasons. And so I appreciate your board doing that before, and I hope that other people in our town will rally around that endeavor and keep it here. Also, I've been working with the attorney for the organization that is proposing to purchase and rehabilitate Tullahoma Village apartments here in Tullahoma, and the Health, Educational, Housing, and Facilities Board. And I think Mr. Ezell will be making arrangements to come here and meet with our board to give you an update on that project and their request for certain things that they need from us to approve in order that they can move forward with that. And that should be at a pretty soon meeting, maybe the next meeting or soon thereafter. Other than that, we've just been working on routine things as usual. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Worsham.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear a report from our city administrator, Ms. Moody.
Thank you. I would like to share a few things tonight. One item I wanted to share with you is we have an upcoming promotion ceremony in the Telehoma Fire Department. March 24th at 3 p.m. and right here in the boardroom, we'll be celebrating almost a new slate of commanding officers in the fire department. We have Chief Kenny Pearson, our Deputy Chief Larry Sloan, Assistant Chief Jason Dameron, Captain Randy Bean, and our newest Lieutenant Amber Steele. And I'll also share, we learned that our newest lieutenant is the first and highest, first female commanding officer in the fire department for Tullahoma. So we're honored to have her and excited for her in her new role. Also wanted to thank the fire department. They participated in West Middle School's Career Day recently and had fun at that event. Also, I'll share with you what I think is a great example of teamwork between two of our departments. Tom Foster, who's a lead with Parks Maintenance, and Eric Pierce, our superintendent in Public Works. They work together to take some of the city's mulch, which you can imagine with the tornado and all the storm events, we have had an abundance of mulch. And they were able to make it into a usable product for our walking trails out at East Park in the disc golf area.
Oh, great.
Because the newest 9 holes are in the wooded area. So I was really proud of them for finding a useful purpose for some of that mulch. Also wanted to share with you from the Parks Department, they received 472 survey responses to support the development of the master plan. And while that data is still being compiled into a report for us, the number one recommendation that was shared with me, it was for Johnson Lane restrooms. No surprise to us, I'm sure, but I just wanted to share that confirmation. And then 2 other things. We had an employee, Tom Foster, again, in the Parks Department, who just earned his certified playground safety inspector, and that he's the first to hold that credential in some number of years for that department. So we're really proud of him. And our building inspector, Emad Alawina, he recently completed chief building official certification and also is a certified administrative hearing officer. Now, I believe only judges, attorneys, and building inspectors can hold that certification, and they cannot practice in their own community. But one of the reasons that, and I'm fortunate, encouraged him and excited he was willing to go get that training, it will now allow us to enter into a reciprocal agreement with another community. And we've already been contacted by the city of Nolensville. They have a longtime building inspector, Monica Pavic, that has agreed to go get the certification so that we can serve as one another's hearing officers. And that should eliminate the cost of that hearing officer. Currently, we use an attorney for that. His name's Andrew Pieri, and it can be quite expensive. And that's why we typically have only held those quarterly or bi-monthly. So I'm just excited to tell you all about those things. And that's my report tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. This time we'll go into consent agenda. I will remind you that all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen requests. In that case, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and be considered separately. During that portion of the meeting reserved for comments from citizens as shown on the agenda, citizens may request that the board remove an item from the consent agenda so that discussion may be held on that item. So with that, let me read the caption for those items that are on the consent agenda. Item number 22-31 are simply the minutes from the February the 28th regular meeting. 22-32 is the January 2022 financial report. Page 7. That. I'd like to also on item number 22-33 announce 4 vacancies in the Telehoma Arts Council. This has been on our agenda before, but continue to make you aware of those vacancies. Item number 22-34 is to approve the purchase of 24 Motorola XBR 2500 in-car radios for Mobile Communications America for the Tullahoma Police Department. That's in the amount of $20,813.52. Item number 2235 is to accept a donation in the amount of $15,000 for the downtown landscaping improvements from the Telehoma Noon Rotary Club that I mentioned in my report. Your motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Almacher.
I would like to remove an item from the consent agenda.
And that item number? Well, that's,
Well, he asked for the motion, he didn't ask for, yeah. Well, I mean,
motion's been stated. It's in the hands of the body.
It's in the hands of the body, but I can make a decision. I will allow it.
I apologize for being untimely.
That's, I apologize for not being on top of it. It's okay.
Um,
So we will remove that item.
It is item number 22-34.
And we'll remove that as a separate item and add that to the new business as well.
Thank
Okay. With that modification, there was these 4 items on the consent agenda. We actually did have a motion to approve the consent agenda. We did have a second to consent agenda. So with that removed, we can go ahead and vote on that motion. Those 4 items tonight. Green to approve, red for no. And that passes 7-0. That will move into the unfinished business. And the unfinished business, I'll read the caption for ordinance number 1572. It's an ordinance of the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee to amend chapter 2 of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Title 1, General Administrative of Tullahoma's Municipal Code, provide that the mayor, at his discretion, may establish and appoint a policy committee and an internal affairs committee from the members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And those details on that are on page 17, and this is on the second and final reading. Do I hear a motion to approve? Alderman Blackburn,
Move to approve.
second. I've done. Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Mr. Moody, would you care any background on this time?
This is a text amendment that updates our text to our current practice. The original text was mandatory language that said the mayor shall annually appoint these committees. The language is changing to make it discretionary, and also the original language stated that 3 members of the board, and they could not be overlapping members, but 3 members assigned to each committee. This language will now allow it to be at least 3 members or more, up to including the entire board forming a committee if you chose that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Alderman Almacher.
Mr. Mayor, while I am in support of a policy committee and an internal affairs committee, I think that this serves to undermine the authority of the other members on the board that are not chosen at your discretion. And with us being such a small board as it is, I would not, if you're going to establish such a committee, it should be in the entire board in itself, as to not undermine the others in their legislative capacity. So I will be voting against it as it's written.
Okay, any further discussion?
Could I just
Yes.
clarify that?
Yes,
I want you to be aware of this before you vote, that the existing language is that the mayor shall appoint these 2 committees, and that they only consist of 3 members of the board. And when the mayor met with me about this, he had a similar, I mean, you can speak for yourself, but he had a similar concern that with as small of a board as we have, that it would be more effective if you did choose to implement this committee, that it be the full board. So we left the language where a mayor would have the flexibility to either choose a subset or choose the whole. So that's why the language is a little more discretionary in the amendment.
yes, Alderman Almacher.
Since we are amending the existing language anyway, I would feel much more comfortable with future boards and future mayors. So that, because essentially what you do is you create, if you're trying to create the nonpartisan ability of this board, and this is coming from probably the most partisan individual on this board, and I'll go ahead and wear that hat. But if you're trying to create and maintain the nonpartisan ability of this board, what you risk in the future is to have a very partisan mayor who can then say, oh, these three people are in my party and they believe what I believe, and they're going to dictate the policies. So we have to not only think about, I'm not saying that you would do such a thing at all, but the capability of this board as well as future boards. And if the individuals in the city of Tullahoma elect us, I don't think they want us to elect, they're not electing us to do half of the job. And so again, if we're going to amend it, it should amend to read, it should be the entire board if you're going to establish this
You
committee.
might want to suggest an amendment.
I'm sorry?
You might want to suggest an amendment or make a motion for this to be amended.
I think that's a great idea, Ms. Whitney. May I?
You may.
I'd like to make a motion to amend to remove the discretionary factor and to create these committees standing as the entire members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Could you put that in writing? to the
Yes,
report?
just, thank you.
And keep in mind, the mayor would still have the discretion to appoint these committees for a defined period of time.
I'm sorry, you guys.
So the language as presented says the mayor may appoint for a specified term no fewer than 3 alternates. So you may want to,
The replace with the mayor may appoint the full board to meet, to assemble as a policy or internal affairs committee. What's that?
And the parliamentarian has suggested that we, and I agree, that just put in there that this board would have advise and consent, still be appointed at the mayor's discretion.
Yes, if you, yes, so to make an amendment to remove the discretionary language of the mayor's ability to appoint limited members and instead replace with the mayor may appoint at his discretion the full board to assemble as a policy and internal affairs committee
For advice and consent.
for advice and consent. Mhm.
so then we need a second and then a vote on the amendment. Is Patricia?
Let the city recorder read the modified motion.
Making an Alderman Almaker made an amendment to remove the discretionary language of the mayor's ability to appoint and replace with the mayor may appoint the full board to assemble as a policy, internal affairs, advice, and concern.
Consent.
consent.
Yeah, sorry.
I think we need to still leave in there at the mayor's discretion, may appoint.
Yes, let me rephrase one more time. So my amendment is that the mayor may, at his discretion, allow the entire board to serve as a policy and internal affairs committee at his advice and consent. Is that easier?
Do you need enough?
Got it?
I try again.
Can we
Do you need another-
maybe there's a second
is there-
first
yeah.
before we
Yeah.
continue down this path?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Beg your pardon?
Let me see if there's a second to this before we, or
Does everybody understand the
We need to
motion that
understand,
I've made?
we need to understand the motion before we get it.
Well, that's my question is,
Well, I think we understand the motion.
Yeah.
It's just she's amending it. Do we understand the amendment?
Yeah.
to the
I-
motion?
And nothing.
I understand the amendment.
I understand.
To me, it's
I
easier.
think I think we all understand that essentially all we're doing is saying that the mayor will, on the policy committee or the internal affairs committee, will appoint the full board.
That's the amendment.
That's the amendment.
that's the amendment.
What if you went to page 17?
Yep, that's where I'm at.
1-213, and then drop down to section 1,
So if you stand 3, just say,
full board.
all aldermen.
Yeah,
Page 17 is the existing language in the current code. And then page 21, Exhibit A, is the proposed new text. And then Alderman Almacher is making a motion to amend this proposed text.
on page
And
21.
I would say to require the full board as membership.
So on page 21,
Where it says no
One.
fewer than 3 aldermen.
replace that.
It
with
could
the
say
full
no
board.
less than the full board, or
Right, if-
The full,
We'll appoint the
Be a
full
mayor.
board. Instead of no fewer
Yeah,
than
or
3
two.
aldermen, it'll say we'll appoint the full board.
may appoint the full board. Yeah. And just repeat that for each of the committees.
the full board or no less than, because if it's no less than, you can get citizens, which we don't want. So either full board or no less than.
the full board.
Okay, so replace no fewer than 3 aldermen, replace those words with no less than the full board.
The other thing I think could happen is if the amendment passes, then they could defer passage until this can be drafted and presented at the next board meeting as amended. Does that make sense?
We could do that, but I think.
I'm just trying to expedite, help this along, because I understand the intent of the request. And then we could, if it's successful, if the amendment is successful, then defer voting on it as amended until next board meeting so that I can revise this and bring it back in writing.
Would you be,
I still need a second, Mr. Mayor.
Proposing a substitution. You've gone beyond insert or whatever. So you're trying to substitute for that. Speak to substitute, the whole thing.
May I clarify, I'm flexible as to the language, but my intent is what needs to remain the same. And I would, also, if I were to receive a second, I can't do that at that moment, but I think it is appropriate to see if I can just receive a second.
if we get a second on this, we will bring this up for the next.
We'll see if we'll make another
And we'll
motion.
defer that until we clean the language up, voting on it the next meeting. Okay, I have a second.
Can I? Or is it too late?
Not
Need to get a second.
If it didn't get a second, it fails.
We're waiting for a second and seem to have no second. But at this time, we can go back to the original motion. And with the original motion, we can defer acting on this until our next board meeting, until we clean this language up that we think's in keeping with, I think, the majority of the board.
So we're back to the original motion.
Going back to Alderman Berry for now.
I don't, me personally, I don't think that I'd need any language cleared. I like it as is, and if there's no discussion, I'd like to call the previous question, or can we
have a
vote?
motion.
My opinion is I don't think we need to clean or defer anything back to.
It died.
Mr. Mayor, you can also second if you think it needs to be cleaned up.
We did have a motion, now a second.
No.
No
No,
second.
no,
Second.
no.
On the amendment.
On the amendment.
On the
On
original,
the original.
yes.
We did have a motion and a second.
Back well and done on the original,
Done on the original motion.
on the
But
amendment.
not on the amendment.
We didn't get a second on the amendment, so we're back to the original motion. Now we'll have a discussion on the original motion after we had the motion and a second. All in favor?
I support it as it stands. To me, if we were to commit it back or whatever you guys are using, that wouldn't, essentially we'd have another board meeting, right? It's just adding things to the board. I like the language as is and plan to support it.
Any further discussion? Alderman Amar.
So since this is just a committee, what essentially will happen is anything that they do will be a resolution that will be brought to the full board. So it's all things we're gonna have to be briefed on anyways, that we ourselves will have to come back. So to me, it's just having a meeting to have a meeting. Might as well just have the meeting and all of us be privy to the conversations that are had.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Since I've had the most gray hair on the board and have served the longest, these committees have been in existence since I've been on the board, and we've never had a meeting in 13 years. Now, if we can get along and behave on the board, then we won't have to worry about this. And I would like to call the question. Previous question.
Previous question. The ordinance number 1572, we have a motion and a second.
You have to vote on it.
We have,
I withdraw that. I want to vote.
well, we can call the question on, and we have the question has been called. And those in
Okay, hold
favor
on
of
one
calling the
second.
question,
There we go.
those in favor of calling the question, vote yes and red for no. And the question, on calling the question is passes 7-0. Now then, we go back to the motion, ordinance number 1572, to amend the city charter. Two committees. Green for yes and red for no.
All right.
And that passes 7-0. There's some language in there that, but we won't go there any further.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, may I say something? We talked about this in one of our parliamentarian procedure meetings, and it might could speed things along if somebody, when they call the question, if you can say, you know, are there any objections, or all in favor say aye, instead of us actually having to push the button. Would that be something we could do? Or do you actually have to
We
push the
can work
button?
on, we can work on that with our policy manual that we're in the process of working on. Other unfinished business. Ordinance number 1573, an ordinance of the city of Tullahoma to amend section 303 of the noise control, generally titled 11 municipal ordinances, to add a prohibition against loud engine braking as shown in Exhibit A. That's in your agenda packet, and Number 22, do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem Blanks, second by Blackwell. Any discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, question is on the ordinance number 1573, green for approval, red for no. That passes 6-1. Okay, there's no other unfinished business. Under new business. Item number 2236, consider approval of an agreement between the City of Tullahoma and the Department of Transportation of highway road grade crossing improvements in the amount of $160,730 with no local cost share. Those details begin on page 26, and there's some description of the striping that would be conducted under that, and this would be done by our local paving contractor. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
It was approved by Alderman Almacher, seconded by Black. Any discussion? Hear no discussion, green for yes and red for no. That passes 7-0. Next item, new business, item number 2237. Consider approval of a contract with the Americans for the Arts for a local economic impact study for the arts of the Telehoma Arts Council. Total cost is $1,800. I get a motion on the floor first, and Alderman Blackwell second. Get that done. And Ms. Moody, would you care to provide some background on that?
Well, actually, if you would allow, I'd like to introduce our chairman of our Arts Council, Greg Gressel. He shared with me just prior to this meeting some of the benefits of the city of Tullahoma and the arts community had from participating in this study 4 years ago.
Mr. Gressel, you recognize.
Yeah, we're getting in just under the wire for this. If the council approves this tonight, we just have a couple days to get it filed, just have to sign it, get it filed. I will fill out the paperwork for us to maybe receive a grant even to cover this amount of money as well. But this study was very instrumental 4 years ago in providing us with a lot of information that we did not have before, helping us to understand the economic impact of the arts in our area and helping us to understand how to establish the fact that our arts community is a major part of our tourism and development for the city of Tullahoma. I was involved in that particular study as well, just as one of the volunteers trying to help and hand out things and getting people that attended events as well as some of the other data and information gathered and into for us to be able to report that. We do. It was also instrumental. Congressman Rose came through the area, and I was able to speak with him on what our economic impact is in the area of arts. And through that, got the opportunity to serve on a couple of committees and stuff that helped us during the shuttered venue planning. I got to serve on a couple of those when we were shut down for COVID and everything was happening. The arts had to understand what the arts were doing in certain areas so that they could understand how to help us survive what that was. And so those numbers and that information came in very handy in that kind of situation too. So I think that it's extremely important for the city and we're hoping to maybe expand it a little bit if we can, to pull in a little bit more of Coffee County as well in this, because these numbers are important for us to use in many things as well as grants and other things that help our local our local arts organizations here in Tullahoma. So if there were any questions, I would field that.
I'll just make a comment as I understand it. This impact study is for the arts council, and it's funded by the Arts Council.
Yes, it would be.
It would be unless they're able to get a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission
and then
to
we
help
would.
cover all or part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from Mr. Gresham? Not, well, thank you for your input.
If I remember,
further
it was
discussion,
about $1
we'll-
million annual economic impact.
We'll vote to approve with a vote of green and a red for no. That's approved 7-0. Next item of new business 2238. Confirm the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation, TAEDC, Executive Director, recommended by the TAEDC Board and City Administrator. First, I'll give a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Blanks, seconded by Blackwell. And with that, I'll yield to City Administrator Moody. Ms. Moody.
Yes, thank you very much. The Economic Development Director reports to the Board of Directors of our Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation. And under an agreement between TAEDC and the city, it's my pleasure to bring forward their recommendation to you all tonight. The Executive Director is a full-time position. They perform a variety of administrative, technical, and professional functions in managing and implementing plans and programs of our Economic Development Corporation. The TAEDC Board met Friday, March 11th in an open meeting to discuss and recommend a top candidate for the position. And now it's my privilege and duty to recommend to this board the ratification of Mr. Winston Brooks to the position of Executive Director. Mr. Brooks has served the citizens of Tullahoma as a city employee for the past 10 years. Throughout his tenure, his responsibilities have included grants administration, public information, special events, small business and loan committee work, and all other duties as assigned. I think we all can attest to that. He's currently the city's Community Development Director and has been instrumental in the development of the city's 2040 Comprehensive Growth Plan. He's regularly supported the economic development activities of the city and TAEDC. Mr. Brooks currently also serves as the Vice Chairman of the Tri-County Railroad Authority and is one of only 83 individuals across the state of Tennessee that have completed the Tennessee Certified Economic Developers Program. He is highly recommended for this position. It was a unanimous decision, and I'm sure all of you can attest, we praise him for his communication skills, his excellent relationships and network that he's built over the past 10 years through the business community. And I can attest as his current supervisor, he's truly multi-talented, often relied upon as the one to get things done for us. He's organized, energetic, pragmatic problem solver, and I just believe his past work with the development community and overseeing the city's planning activities have uniquely prepared him for this new role. I'm very excited to see how he'll carry out the strategic vision for Tullahoma and use his skills to create job opportunities and help diversify our local economy. I believe he's the best candidate to take on this role, and upon your approval, he's agreed to accept the position and begin immediately. So I'll turn it to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. With that, we will entertain any debate or any comments or any discussion on the recommendations been brought by Ms. Moody. Hearing no further debate, the floor is open to vote on approval of Mr. Let's see. Green for yes and red for no. And that is approved 7-0.
There you go, Winston.
Sounds like you got it. At this time, I would like to yield the floor to Mr. Brooks, our new TAEDC Director, for any comments. Mr. Brooks, you're recognized.
Well, I'm overwhelmed with your support. Ms. Moody, thank you for your recommendation. I just really want to say, Mayor, Aldermen, thank you for your support. Also want to thank the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation, the Board of Directors for giving me this opportunity. I'm honored to serve our great community and to continue the work of the TAEDC. I was going to say it's a great day to be in Tullahoma, but it's a great day to be in a Great American Defense Community Day. Thank you, Colonel Lee. I appreciate your leadership in getting that approved. It's going to be a huge accolade for our community and what we do to support the base and the defense community here. And I'm looking forward to getting to work. So thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Future is bright in Tullahoma. Okay, at this time, we have a resolution that was brought to be added to the agenda. This resolution you have on your desk, and that's resolution number 1893. It's a resolution by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to support a sales tax moratorium on gas and diesel taxes. And that is for your approval to read through. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution, to add this resolution to tonight? Alderman
Please.
Almacher,
Blackwell, motion,
Blackwell.
move to approve.
have a motion to approve. Seconded by Ms. Almacher.
Sorry.
Either way, thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I?
Yes, you may.
So last week, I know that the big thing that was on we were all talking about it, Facebook, out in town, these gas prices, and there's not a whole lot we can really do as a community. However, this was brought to me because there was some talk at the General Assembly about proposing a resolution there that would create a moratorium on state gas taxation. That affects us, I think, about 10 cents to the gallon is about what it adds up to. But it's about 27 cents per gallon for the entire state is what we pay. The federal government has also considered issuing a temporary halt, and this is for a 90-day moratorium, by the way, that the state is considering and the federal government is also considering. And I believe that would be another 18 cents a gallon on top of that at the federal level. This is something that has been a bipartisan cooperative thing that they are proposing. In fact, the two individuals who are proposing it and have talked about it at our General Assembly are both Democrats, and the ones who are talking about it federally are Republicans. So there's been some bipartisan support. This would alleviate some of that economic strain and hardship, but it would be temporary, and we aren't sure how long these gas prices are going to continue to move upwards. But the biggest risk to it federally is that the federal gas tax is providing funding for a lot of the infrastructure promises that are currently being made, but they're not things that are having to be paid for right now. So hopefully, if it was just a moratorium for 90 days, that would just alleviate the strain here locally a little bit and help us get back out and make sure nobody's missing their spring breaks. So thank you for your cooperation for this, and Ms. Moody, thank you for drafting this as well.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Ms. Blackwell?
One other thing I want to point out, which I'm glad to see within this resolution, is that the funding for this would come from the state. We wouldn't be losing funding locally; that would be coming back to us. The request within here is that be replaced through the revenue loss through that $1.5 billion, the rainy day fund. And right now is a rainy day, I think. So I think I hope the General Assembly will consider this. Yeah, these are weird times.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let me make an aside comment. I've done my part to lower gasoline prices in Tullahoma. I filled up all my vehicles yesterday, and you saw what happened today. Price of oil came down below $100 a barrel. So I've done my part. You go do your part to fill up. Anyway, we have a motion and a second, and we've had the discussion.
The only other thing that I would add to this is that the state of Tennessee has certainly made promises to local governments before as far as collecting tax dollars and for this rainy day fund. And when did they start that rainy day fund? Like 10? Yeah. And so we're just now seeing that back. Actually, have we seen it back yet? So I just want to caution this board that we can't always trust our state government to say what they're going to do.
No comment. We have a motion, second, and we've had this limited vote green for approval. We approve the resolution. We'll support that. The gasoline moratorium. Okay, we have one other thing on the new business. It's an item that was pulled from the consent agenda, item number 22-34, to approve the purchase of 24 Motorola radios in the amount of $20,813.52. That's an item of new business. Do I hear a motion to approve that? We have a motion from Bob Blackwell, seconded by Dunn. Discussion. Alderman Amaker.
Mr. Mayor, this conversation is going to come as no surprise, but I was reached out by a business owner once again, and the biggest concern that's been brought to my attention is that these radios specifically are not compatible with the sheriff's department and other local law enforcement agencies. They would also not be compatible with those outside of our county, Bedford County, and a few other agencies. I know Bedford County was one that was mentioned to me, and this is hearsay, so I don't know that to be fact other than what we have been presented with. I hate to see us continue to spend money on radios that we're going to continually have to replace to be more compatible. So I just wanted to get some insight onto, kind of what our plan was going forward with these radios and if we were going to continue. And also, have we considered shopping locally for these radios, and did we reach out?
I'd like to recognize Ms. Moody for some background on this agenda item and the history of how we got where we are and what it means going forward. Moody.
We have been, over the last 3 or 4 budget cycles, we have been consistently upgrading our public safety radio communications to upgrade them to digital radios. We have also, part of the benefit of doing this conversion was to improve the sound quality, make a clearer, where voices could be heard more clearly, get rid of some of the interference that we were having with other agencies, being able to hear them on our radio channels, and then also addressing gaps in coverage. And so we've done that through the purchase of a couple of repeaters. We've purchased 10 radios in Public Works. Every firefighter in the fire department has a portable radio that is digital. Every officer in our police department has a portable radio that's digital. Some of our in-car radio systems are digital. This is actually the last purchase that would complete the complete upgrade of our radio system. And these are what we currently use. And they are an upgrade from what both the Sheriff's Department and Manchester currently use. My understanding is that they will be upgrading in the near future, moving to a new digital radio system. I have asked for it in writing, but haven't received it from Director Scott LeDuc, but he's told us verbally several times that there will be no equipment and no financial impact to this city for us to use this digital radio system we currently use and be able to communicate with the Sheriff's Office and other in Manchester when they complete their upgrade in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. Any further discussion? No further discussion from Alderman Berry.
Just a couple quick. I'm going to support this because we're so far down the road. But part of the reason that every single first responder in our county is moving to a system, it is an expensive system. But what I would like for this board to do is to sit down and have a conversation about a larger communications plan. And a couple of things that questions. We've improved the sound quality. Do we still have dead spots? Do we still, because I'm still hearing from
To
boots
my
on the ground,
knowledge, we do
have
not.
dead
Can you speak?
spots.
We do not. We're not
We
aware
have
of
no
any.
dead spots. We have no audio issues. This won't come back up is my big thing. I just want resolve to the radio issues. We've been doing it for 3 to 4 years. If this fixes it, it fixes it. But I do want to urge the board to sit down and talk with the greater or the city to come up with a communication plan. My understanding as well from the conversations, there won't be cost because the Sheriff's Department is going to pay for the equipment and the stuff needed for the city of Tullahoma to do that, to be a part of the system, to tap into that. I'll support this, but I just want to make sure that we're good. This is the right path. We're done. We aren't going to have dead spots, and we're not going to hear it from any of our people on the ground that they can't communicate anymore.
Any further discussion?
It feels like we've done this a lot, so, but the reason why is because we've been doing this in increments, correct? Like if we had done so where everybody had the same radio at the same time, it would have been very costly. So that's why we've chosen to do this over several years. Is that correct?
That's typically any major purchase that I've seen in either the fire department or the police department. I feel like they've been very responsible in breaking it up over 3 or 4 budget cycles. They've done that with extrication equipment. I'm thinking your SCBA's, we typically spread that out over. So they do that so that there's less budget impact on any single budget.
Okay, questions on item number 22-34, purchase of radios. Green for yes, red for no. It's approved 7-0. There being no other new business, adjourn. Without objection, we'll adjourn. And call to order the beer board. Are there any public comments to the beer board? Seeing no public comments to the beer board, we'll go into initially in consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, there's only one item, that's the approval of minutes from February 28th.
Move to approve.
Second.
And seconded by Black. Approve green for, any discussion? Not vote red for, green for yes and red for no. And that passes 7-0. Found there be no other new business from the board or any unfinished business. Without objection, will be adjourned. But with the adjournment of the beer board, we will be going into a study session.
I didn't know about it. Convention tomorrow, so
Don't say the word invited.
she said I'm on. I will stay.